What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube, and today I've got some football focus. Last night, the Pittsburgh Steelers ended their wild card playoff game on the road against the division rival Ravens, also ended their season. Pittsburgh played Baltimore in the 2024/start of 25 NFL playoffs for this season, and they went down in a cloud of dust. They went down without much of a fight. This video today is going to be more so kind of a what's next and kind of a who to put the blame on video. I'm still going to do a bit of a game recap, still going to do some stats, but we're going to talk about kind of who needs to go or what needs to change because, again, now I'm going to wait to pull up all the recent playoff years and falling behind early and all the recent losses. No playoff wins in 8 seasons for Coach Mike Tomlin and the team. And that's going to be a different video. I'm going to do probably in a week or so kind of a season recap, a what was good, what was bad, how did the collapse happen. But Pittsburgh now in the last 5 weeks has lost 5 games in a row. They were at one point 10-3 and were competing for the 1 seed. They were considered a top 5 NFL team and they had all the world at their feet. Then once their schedule got to the hard part of their schedule, they did what we expected and lost some games, but it was the way in which they lost. It was the way in which they got dominated and showed no heart on either side of the ball and had nothing really to speak for it. Baltimore came out last night, and it was what Pittsburgh kind of expected. It's the thing you don't want to have happen. It's what happened against Jacksonville and Kansas City and Buffalo and all the other playoff teams. We got down 21-0. You cannot come out, especially against good teams in big games like this, and get down like this. And yes, part of that is on Coach Tomlin. It's not all on Coach Tomlin. Again, the players need the most accountability out of anybody. Players have to execute the plays. Play callers have to call the right plays. But the coach also does need to get his team ready to play and to purposefully address and avoid the situation they got into again last night. It is too much of a recurring theme to overlook Mike Tomlin. He is one of the culpable people in this. That is not absolving any players because we have a lot of player issues. That's not absolving the coordinators because they both should be gone. We'll talk about them. But Tomlin is right in that group as well. And again, I'm going to save the exact stats and timeline and playoff losses and all that for a different kind of recap video. But for today, let's talk about the stats. Pittsburgh comes out, I think 1 first down and then out, and then the Ravens come down, drive the field, get a touchdown. Pittsburgh goes back 3 and out. Baltimore drives down, gets a touchdown. The game essentially is already over at that point. Baltimore imposes their will on both sides of the ball. Their D-line getting constant pressure on Russell Wilson, making Russell Wilson look very afraid, very happy feet, throwing off his back foot, never getting set, never getting much time. Part of that's on Russell, part of that's on the O-line. Defensively, we couldn't do anything. We couldn't do a single thing. Lamar Jackson wound up with, I think, just 5 incompletions on the whole day, something like 13 for 18 or something like that, somewhere in that range. I didn't write down Lamar's stats, but 5 incompletions all day for Lamar. Also ran for 80 yards himself. Derrick Henry ran all over us. We had poor overall coverage. We had a hard time containing the tight ends like we always do. We took poor angles on tackling like we always do. We couldn't really cover one-on-ones like we always do. We couldn't stop the run like we always do. We couldn't get pressure on the outside like we always do. We couldn't get pushed from our interior line like we always do. All of these things have been recurrent problems. And again, I'm not going to sit here and excoriate Pittsburgh for finishing 10-7 because that's the record I predicted. I knew the schedule was going to play out the way the schedule played out. The problem is the way they lost. You can lose games to good teams and still feel encouraged. You can make turnovers and splash plays on defense. You can get some spark on special teams. You can make some plays on offense and be competitive back and forth. To get bullied off the ball on both sides of the ball and have nothing to show for it on offense and get blown out of the water with long 8-minute drives over and over again on defense, 5 yards at a time, 7 yards at a time, 10 yards at a time. No one is doubting that Baltimore's got an elite offense. They've got the best rushing quarterback in the NFL paired with one of the top 2 or 3 rushers in the NFL in Derrick Henry that's going to be a Hall of Famer. You got one of the biggest bruisers ever with the most agile guy ever. That's an elite rushing offense that's hard for anyone to stop. But to get bullied off the ball like we did is a problem. So Pittsburgh does come out and win the second half 14-7. They come out in the second half, get a nice touchdown, start to involve some receivers on some deep shots down the field. Russell starts throwing the ball, taking some chances, and the chances pay off. And then we come back on the next drive, and And Derrick Henry gets a 44-yard touchdown run without really any help. Stiff-arming guys, throwing guys on their ass, and Baltimore goes up 28-7. That's pretty much all she wrote. That's the end of the game. Game finishes 28-14. Baltimore only stopped scoring because the game was over and they were draining the clock. So that's the way we go out. I am stuffy, I am cold, I am tired, I didn't get much sleep last night, went out with a friend to watch the game in public, that's why the review's late, had plans late last night, have plans today, so I'm kind of rushing this one out, but I wanted to get you guys the coverage for the last game review of the season. So let's get to the actual stats, and I'll talk about kind of where we went wrong in certain aspects. Russell Wilson's stat line looks pretty good, it's not as good as it looks. 20 of 29 passing, 270 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Again, that stat line is misleading. A lot of that was in garbage time or when Pittsburgh had no real chance to come back. I will say Russell Wilson overall gets a negative for me in spite of that stat line because when the game was still in doubt, when it was early on in the game, Russell gave us no hope out there. It was really, really rough. I mean, like I said, he was throwing off his back foot. He was running for his life. And again, part of that goes on the offensive line. This is going to be a double negative. Negative for the offensive line, negative for Russell Wilson. The defense, the tackles did not do him any favors. The two guys I've been calling out all season for atrociously bad seasons, Dan Moore and Broderick Jones. And again, we'll talk about their futures. But the line did Russell Wilson no good, but Russell never looked comfortable. And for a guy with his level of experience, a guy who's one day going to be a Hall of Famer, a guy who's been to 2 Super Bowls and won a Super Bowl championship, for a guy that's played in the big stage and so many playoff games before and won playoff games before, you can't be that nervous. Your feet can't be that unsteady. You can't be throwing off your back foot across your body into triple coverage. He made a lot of bad decisions. And again, a lot of that comes down to pressure, so kudos to the Ravens and negatives to our line, but Russell Wilson did himself no favors last night, in spite of the fact that he did have 2 really nice drives. When he started taking chances and setting his feet a little bit and throwing the ball downfield, guys made it happen. There was one very nice touchdown that he threw in kind of a tight window to George Pickens, who caught it in double coverage. Safety was coming over to try and help. Pickens caught the one-on-one, broke the tackle, spun out of the safety's hit, and got to the end zone. Good throw, better move on the catch. Van Jefferson got a like a 30-yard touchdown where he beat 2 guys over the top, and Russell hit a really nice throw over the top, right in the breadbasket to Van Jefferson for a touchdown. Calvin Austin had a nice 25-yarder downfield one-on-one where he caught the ball with good coverage, took a big hit, and held on. Love Calvin Austin. Good to see that. And then Mike Williams got a nice 30-yarder downfield one-on-one moon ball as well. So all 4 guys getting opportunities to make plays in 2 consecutive drives, and they do, which leads to the nice Van Jefferson touchdown and also the nice George Pickens touchdown. So we start taking chances and showing what the offense can be, and it starts to shine a little bit. It was just too little too late and no resistance on defense, and it took too long to get going. Running the ball, here's a whole other issue we have to face. Najee Harris, six carries for 17 yards. Jaylen Warren, 2 carries for 6 yards. That is a combined 8 carries in the game for our two big starting running backs, 2 of our stars, our 1A, 1B. Our bruiser and change of pace back, 8 total carries for 23 total yards, under 3 yards a carry, which is a problem in itself. Again, part of that goes on the line. The line wasn't doing much. Seumalo's been good since he's come back. Dan Moore started the season good and finished it atrociously. And other than that, we have 2 young rookies in there. One of which didn't play yesterday. Spencer Anderson was in because Mason McCormick didn't play yesterday. Promising rookie who needs some work still. He's not quite there yet, but he's got the makings to be good. So Spencer Anderson played, again, playing this season without first-round pick Troy Fautanu, having Broderick Jones injured in his wrong spot, having 2 of the other backups injured, and then losing James Daniels before Seumalo got back, starting without Seumalo and then losing Daniels and getting Seumalo back. We've had injuries all over the line, so that's part of it. But didn't do us any favors. We also can't run the ball predictably. This at least was the one time they came out trying to pass and trying to do some different things. Try to flea flicker. Didn't really work because the run wasn't set up. But they weren't as predictable in run pass as they usually are. They didn't do a lot of that dumb pitch play. They didn't do a lot of like stupid handoffs. They did throw the ball short of the sticks many times, and that's a Russell Wilson thing there. Bad play design for the coordinator and bad execution for Russell throwing short of the sticks and the receivers running short of the sticks. Freiermuth caught one twice that was a yard short of the first down, which resulted in punts. So your receivers got to run beyond the sticks, your play callers got to call it, and your quarterback's got to throw it. All wrong for us there. You also can't run the ball when you're always down 21-0. If you're in the playoffs and you're fighting for your life and you're down to good teams who are dominating the clock because your defense can't get off the field and your coordinator's not calling great plays or mixing up blitzes, that means your offense gets down 13-0, 14-0, 21-0. And when you're down like that, you got to pass the ball constantly, which puts pressure on your passing game and takes away your runners. So it gives your 2 star running backs 8 carries or whatever it was. So yeah, not a good day for that. And again, I touched on this already a little bit. And I will touch on this much more in depth when I do my kind of season review video. But I think it's clear that Dan Moore needs to go. He's in the last year of his contract. He'll be a free agent at the end of the year. People were making a case for him to stay earlier in the season. His first half of this year, he followed 3 bad years in a row, in my opinion. Pretty good rookie season, I'm not going to lie. Second and third year were atrocious. This year came in with his best 8-game stretch of his entire career. Showed a lot of promise. Took himself from being one of the worst tackles in the league to kind of a mid-range average tackle. And then the last several games of this season, playing against the league competition, went right back down to where he was, if not lower, to being one of the worst tackles in the league. I think he needs to go. I think James Daniels is going to go. I like James Daniels, but he's getting older and he's going to want more money for one more contract, and Pittsburgh's probably not going to pay him. So Daniels will go. Dan Moore should go. Broderick Jones needs to use this offseason to train hard, get healthy, and then put him back in his right spot. That's a Mike Tomlin problem, putting linemen in their wrong spots. I've always criticized Mike Tomlin for that. So getting Fatanu back healthy, getting Broderick healthy, putting him in the right spot, and then getting someone else as a backup, as McCormick and Zach Frazier start to kind of gel together as young, talented players. So the Lions got some issues, but we hopefully have a future in store for them. Defensively, again, this is not Steeler football. We used to be the team that would run the ball, control the clock, play smart football, no turnovers. Defensively, we got the steel curtain, the pressure, the outside linebackers blitzing, the slot corners blitzing, just that classic Steeler smash mouth football. The Ravens did it to us, just like they did the last time we played each other, and just like every team has done to us in the last 4 weeks. The Ravens, overall, Derrick Henry, and again, Derrick Henry's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the best ever. But to run for 7+ yards a carry and get 186 yards on us, on top of 86 yards from Lamar Jackson, and your team runs for 300 total yards and dominates time and possession 2-1, that's a problem. That is the opposite of what the Steelers football usually is. That's how we usually play. We got punched in the mouth in a disrespectful way by a division rival who never even feared us. And that's a problem. The culture is changing, and I think it's time for wholesale changes. Let's do defensive stats and we'll go further. There's 2 guys I'm going to give positives on this defense for different reasons. One being Landon Roberts. He led the team today with 7 tackles, was in on 14 total, but had 7 tackles on the day. And Roberts was the only guy. He was jumping over piles to try and stop the tush push they were doing on us, executing their 3rd and 1s and 3rd and inches. He was jumping over piles. He was getting to the running back. He was picking a lane and going. He was the only guy holding on to Derrick Henry and getting those tackles, saving a couple longer runs. He was the only guy suited to tackle Derrick Henry yesterday. So kudos to Landon Roberts. He's an unsung hero on this defense. JPJ, I give a positive to for his coverage. He did have 2 penalties again yesterday. That is the biggest problem. He's probably the most penalized corner in the league at this point, if not in the top 3 or 4. Joey Porter Jr. has physical tools that are almost unmatched. He is an elite cover corner with his body and positioning. He needs to train his hands to do better on that coverage. He's holding and grabbing more now than he was in college, and it was a problem in college. It was the one knock on him that I said getting drafted. I said he doesn't catch a lot of picks, and he holds way too much in college. He needs to fix that in the pros. He hasn't fixed it. 2 more penalties. That being said, had the only real defensive coverage in the pass game that we saw all day. As well, had a beautiful 3rd down tackle to get the Ravens off the field when they should have got a 1st down. So good tackling and good coverage for Porter. He's got to watch the penalties, but he gets a plus for his coverage because nobody else was covering yesterday. Highsmith did get 1 sack. The Steelers got 1 sack all day. How do you beat Lamar Jackson? You hit Lamar Jackson. You pressure him a lot. You hit him. The Ravens were defaulting to that inside handoff option where Lamar was keeping it most of the time, but Derrick Henry was the one getting hit. TJ Watt kept biting on the Derrick Henry hit and letting Lamar run free. In those situations, you have to hit the quarterback. If you ding the quarterback, whether he's got the ball or not a few times, they're going to stop running that play and you're going to take it out of their offense. We didn't do it. We read the play wrong. We went into the wrong guy, hit the wrong guy, and Lamar got 86 yards rushing. So Highsmith gets the only sack of the day. Really, really disgusting lack of pressure from the interior and exteriors of our defensive line. Negatives, real quick. Let's just run the list. Minkah Fitzpatrick, negative. Got stiff-armed on his ass yesterday. I think it was either Likely or... I'm not sure if it was Isaiah Likely. I think it might have been Derrick Henry. But Minkah gets stiff-armed on his ass. He takes poor angles. He had a really, really bad season. The fact that he is a Pro Bowler is in name only. It's a legacy vote, and the people feel sorry for him. Minkah Fitzpatrick, yes, there's a lot of stuff you don't see that he does in terms of commanding the middle of the field, but he's done really nothing for us all season. He had the one nice turnover earlier this year. He put a string of 2 nice games together. But the other 17 games... not so nice. Minkah Fitzpatrick missed too many tackles this year. He wasn't involved in enough plays, didn't make splash in coverage, wasn't forcing any fumbles, was taking bad angles. Minkah Fitzpatrick's year was really, really bad, and we got to see how to fix him because the dude was an all-pro, all-time safety every year up until this year. Cam Sutton, negative. Since he's come back into the lineup after his 11 or 12 game suspension situation, he's not been the same guy. I thought bringing him back because he was a star third corner here. He's a great slot corner in Pittsburgh. Went to Detroit to play the number 1 corner, didn't do very well on the outside. But I thought as a sub on the outside and a guy who could play inside for us would be great. He's not been good whatsoever since being back here in Pittsburgh. And again, I know it's been a couple years he was out of the system, and he was out for the first 11, 12 games of the year with suspension. Maybe it was a little less. But he didn't play earlier on, which might have taken him out of rhythm, but he's been really bad. He got Isaiah Likely, threw him to the ground disrespectfully, and just typified what our team was looking like yesterday, just laying there pathetically while we're getting stepped on slowly, gashing us for 5 yards at a time. Dante Jackson, negative. A couple coverage things on him, couple first downs early. Gave the touchdown up to Rashad Bateman, got beat on the inside move, one-on-one, man-on-man. You can't get beat by a team when their number 1 receiver, Zay Flowers, is not playing. Mark Andrews is much older and slower now than he used to be, and Zay Flowers was out. Their best receiving option was out. So you're allowing the second best receiver, nothing against Bateman, he's fine, but you're allowing the second best receiver to torch you one-on-one down by the goal line in the playoffs. Not a very good finish to the season for Dante Jackson after a pretty strong start. TJ Watt, negative. I'm getting real sick of the TJ Watt narrative of him being the DPOY. If you're supposed to be at least a top 3 defensive player in the NFL, if not number 1, I've been a massive TJ fan. But guess what? This is his, 3rd game in a row where he didn't record a single stat. Not a batted ball, not a tackle, not a breathing on the quarterback, not a genuine pressure. TJ Watt was in there after Highsmith got 1 sack. And that was it. He chased Lamar toward the sidelines once. So he got like an assisted almost tackle one time. 3 consecutive games with no stats on the board for TJ Watt when he's getting single covered most of the time. I understand holding, I understand chips, I understand game plans. But if you're the best in the game, if you're the DPOY and your team needs you to make a play and you aren't even found on the stat sheet once, that's a problem. We've got a TJ Watt problem here in Pittsburgh. Put this guy on a milk carton, call Unsolved Mystery, see if Robert Stack needs dug up somewhere, because the mystery is where the hell is TJ Watt? It's an issue. Larry Ogunjobi, 1 tackle yesterday. Really, really, really undervalued season. Didn't do much for us at all. The money he commands, I think this was the last year of his contract, I'd just let him go. Let him go and try to bring another veteran in, see what Dean Lowry can do, see if Loudermilk's worth anything as a starter, I don't know. Draft somebody, but you need more pressure on the D-line. Ogunjobi's a pretty short tackler, but he's not getting any pressure. He's not stuffing any runs. He didn't do anything this season. He's a guy that requires a lot of money, and he's not producing a lot. Let him go. Negative. Special teams, Boswell 0 for 0. We only had 2 extra points, which he made. Cordless Waitman, in my mind, aside from really Landon Roberts, he was the only guy worth mentioning yesterday. He was our MVP as our punter. When your punter is your best player, you're fucking screwed. Cordless Waitman, 5 punts, 257 yards. That's a 51.4 yard per punt average, with all 5 of his punts landing inside the 20. Excellent day for Waitman. Again, when your punter gets your highest praise, you're not doing great. So Pittsburgh starts the year 10-3, loses 4 to end the season, loses pretty pathetically in the playoffs, doesn't show much life aside from the third quarter. What do you think? Tell me in the comments down below who stands out to you. In my mind, and again, I'll be doing a recap video soon, so I'm not going to get into all this here, but I think it's time for a culture change. I think Arthur Smith has to go. I know Terrell Austin more than anybody else has to go. And I think it's time to look at Mike Tomlin's job as well. Just if nothing else, for no playoff wins in 8 years and falling behind so early again, and just the standard being a 9-8, 10-7 kind of season with another loss. We're always a good team. Mike Tomlin's a good person. Mike Tomlin at times has been a good leader, but he's lost the faith of a lot of the Pittsburgh faithful. I'm still on his side. Not many others are. It's time to look at all three of those guys to clean house and start fresh, because this roster is too good to be finishing as bad as it is. Some guys need moved out. Some guys need coaching, but I think the coordinators and the coach are a great place to start looking. I think it is time to look for a new era in Pittsburgh. We will talk about it more in depth. But tell me in the comments down below what stood out to you. Who was good, who was bad. They were all bad, let's be honest. I will see you guys for a season review and more Steeler coverage this offseason. But stay warm and take care.